It's one of the tightest races, the race for Nevada Attorney General. The incumbent Democrat Aaron Ford joined us last week. Today we are joined by Republican challenger Sigal Chattah. And thank you so much for joining us on 8 News Now.
Thank you so much for having me.
You wanted to talk about something that was maybe a misunderstanding or a misrepresentation in terms of your views on the 2020 election. You have been called an election denier. In my research, I did not find a source of you denying the election. What say you on this topic?
Right, Ryan. I mean, here's the thing. My first interview was here at Channel 8, where I clarified very, very simply that, you know, the 2020 election, unless I saw that there was evidence that there was a stolen election, unless it was produced and, you know, sufficient judges ruled on it, then there's no such thing to deny. And
so you feel President Biden is a legitimate president, clearly?
Well, absolutely. I mean, he's living in the White House, and, you know, and I mean...
Yes, he is.
Yeah, he's a few years into living in the White House now.
Now, on a more serious topic, you sent a text to a former friend about A.G. Ford. You said he should be, and I quote, hung from an effing crane. I have to just ask off the top, I understand it was a private text to a friend, but why would you write those words?
The bottled water.
Bottled water fell. It's okay.
Is that okay?
We're gonna roll.
Cut that, right?
We'll take care of that.
Okay.
But why would you write those words about A.G. Ford?
So here's the short of it. This was a conversation that was discussing corruption and government corruption and Hamas. And the comparison that I had made was, I compared him to a leader of Hamas because I do believe that he is a corrupt AG. Everything that we have seen the past at least 2 years, even up to 4 years, have demonstrated that we are dealing with a very corrupt attorney general.
Can you understand, though, even with your different political views than him, that, well, that comment in America about an African-American man, even if it's not how you intended it, could be deemed racist? Can you understand how people would hear it and see it that way?
If it was used in a context describing somebody in a racist manner, but I was not. You know, to say that I used it in a racist manner is absolutely absurd. Look, I'm a Yemenite Jew, okay? We're the blacks of the Middle East. There's no question about it, all right? I'm not going to say that this was racist. This has nothing to do with race. This had to do with corruption and comparing him to a leader of Hamas, which, in my opinion, is a very corrupt militant terrorist organization.
A.G. Ford said he does not consider you racist, but he did consider the text racist when we interviewed him. Do you feel that you need to reach out and apologize and explain that to him or his team?
That I'm not a racist? I know I'm not a racist.
But that he felt that text was racist. Do you feel you owe him an apology? I
don't, because the text had nothing to do with race. It had to do with corruption. And I think that as somebody that I believe is corrupt, while... Listen, we don't hang people from cranes in the United States. There's no question about it, okay? But corrupt people do go to jail, and, you know, I don't know that they get executed in the U.S., but that was in comparison to a leader of Hamas, and that's what they do to traitors in the Middle East.
We have a lot of political issues to discuss, but I want to clear up something else that many considered offensive: use of the word trannies in a tweet. The transgender community considers that a, quote, slur. Do you feel that word is okay to be used? I know that you've mentioned it's used in movies and books, but since that community considers it offensive, why not use the word that community does not deem offensive?
Like what? Like drag
transgender,
queens? Oh.
For example, instead of tranny, transgender, would you consider a more sensitive path?
Would you consider granny less offensive than grandmother?
This is the community's view, not my view. I'm asking you. I'm just asking you to comment for them.
I can't comment for them. I can't comment for them. I mean, you know, like I said, the word tranny is used in it's used in Hollywood. It's part of the American culture. This isn't a word that is taboo. it's still being used. So, you know, if the use of that word is offensive to a group, absolutely, I would apologize to that group. But at the same time, I think in the grand scheme of things, the change needs to come from on a much bigger scale. So let's ban Hollywood from using the word tranny. Let's ban American literature from using the word tranny. Just like any other word that has, I guess, come in and out of circulation. You know, we don't call Native Americans Indians, and I don't think that you see that word being used anymore because it's so offensive. But yet the word tranny is still used a lot.
I want to give you a chance to talk on those two issues. We're going to get to some political issues.
Sure.
AB 236, habitual offenders, petty larceny, for example. You said you want stricter penalties. Please be specific as to what you would want to change.
Okay, so AB 236, we know that that's the Criminal Justice Reform Bill. It increased habitual offenders, the definition of a habitual offender, from a 2-time felon to a 5-time tough felon. I find that very disturbing, okay? Our streets are obviously now being flooded with habitual offenders. You know, there's a reason why the law is written the way it is, to address habitual offenders. So the way I look at it is I would reduce that back to 2-time felon for it to be considered a habitual offender.
No, numerical amount as well? The 1,400 back down in terms of...
It's actually 1,200. Are you talking about petty larceny?
Yeah, petty larceny,
yeah.
1,200. What do you want to knock it back down to?
So, you know, here's the thing. When I came out of law school, it was $350, okay? I would like to see it, if not reduced to $650 I'm sorry, if not reduced to $350, at least to $650.
$650. Let's keep moving. Civil criminal law, you've practiced for over 2 decades. The church closures during COVID-19 was something you were really fighting against. Talk about what you did specifically with Calvary Chapel versus Sisalak.
So Calvary Chapel, Lone Mountain versus Sisalak was a church closure case. It was an excuse me.
Okay,
Can I just grab water?
Absolutely. Take your time.
Okay, sorry.
And again, just for those that are watching, we're referencing the lawsuit Calvary Chapel versus Sisalak. This is involving church closures during the coronavirus pandemic. And again, further explanation by you when you're ready in terms of that fight. Yeah,
so the church closure case was actually a violation of the free exercise clause. Now, I'll tell you, as somebody of the Jewish faith, okay, the closure of religious worship didn't specifically affect my Orthodox community because Jews, you know, you only need 10 people for a minyan, but it did affect churches and it did affect other places of worship, okay? And Calvary Chapel Lone Mountain is a church that has a capacity of 700 people. When people were going through COVID, okay, many times, if you're religious, you search to a higher power for explanation, right? You know, you don't know. This is a pandemic. You don't know what's going on. And religious worship is very important in this country to many people. So I decided to take on this case.
Right. Take on the governor.
Take on the governor. I felt it wrong. I felt that no matter what kind of pandemic, no matter what kind of situation, wars have been waged around the world and places of worship have stayed open.
And again, we are getting shorter on time, so I want to move ahead. Churches were open about 10 days before Christmas, as I remember reporting on it.
Yes.
2 more topics, quicker answer here. Access to COVID vaccines for seniors. What was your effort there? Talk about what you did, a little bit of a shorter answer.
So when the COVID vaccines were being rolled out, there was an issue with the speed of the rollout. Okay, I felt that the most vulnerable population in the state was not getting access to the vaccines as they should have because they had the highest comorbidities for COVID. And so I filed a lawsuit against the governor and Aaron Ford to, first of all, speed up the rollout, which was being done between 2,000 and 3,000 people a day. We sped it up, and within 45 days, we were up to 15,000 vaccines, and the governor reduced the age from 75 to 65.
less than a minute left. In my research, I look into this. I see you have called the AG a, quote, convicted criminal. In my research, I found no evidence to support that. The larceny case from his days in Texas in college in his early 20s was dismissed. So can you explain why you're calling AG Ford a convicted criminal?
Well, many times what happens, and this is standard in criminal justice, you could be convicted, but the minute that you pay the restitution, or the minute you complete your courses, whether it's victim impact panel in DUI cases or anger management classes in domestic violence, those cases will be dismissed.
I'm not the attorney, you are, but then how would he be a convicted criminal when it was dismissed?
Because it was dismissed based on a payment of restitution.
We appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
We went through a lot of topics. Thank you so much.